Right now, somewhere in the world, a billionaire is waking up before sunrise. Not because an alarm forced them, because their brain has been trained to want it. Meanwhile, most people are hitting snooze, scrolling through a phone, and starting the day reacting instead of deciding. Here's the uncomfortable truth. The gap between a billionaire's bank account and yours didn't start with money. It started with the way their brain processes decisions, risk, time, and failure. And the wildest part? That's not genetic. It's not luck. It's not some secret bloodline of winners. It's a set of mental patterns you can literally install into your own mind, starting today. Over the next 30 days, I'm going to hand you the exact mental training system that separates people who build empires from people who build excuses. No fluff, no just think positive nonsense. Real, structured brain rewiring exercises, broken down week by week. And stick around, because the exercise I'm sharing at the end of this video, the one most billionaires use without even realizing they're using it, is the single fastest way to change how your brain reacts to money, risk, and opportunity. If you skip it, you skip the whole point of this video. Let's get into it. Here's something almost nobody says out loud. Most people don't have a money problem. They have a thinking problem that happens to show up as a money problem. Your brain is running on autopilot most of the day. Neuroscientists estimate a huge percentage of your daily decisions are automatic, driven by habits and mental shortcuts formed years ago, often shaped by scarcity, fear, or a safe and steady mindset passed down from people who were themselves trained to avoid risk. Billionaires didn't get lucky and skip this programming. They deliberately rewired it. They trained themselves to see opportunity where others see danger. They trained themselves to make decisions fast with incomplete information. They trained themselves to treat failure as data, not identity. This is called neuroplasticity, your brain's ability to physically reorganize itself based on repeated thought patterns and behaviors. Every time you rehearse a new way of thinking, you're literally building new neural pathways. Do it enough times, and that new pattern becomes your default. That's not motivational speaker talk. That's basic brain science. So the real question isn't, how do I get more money? It's, how do I rewire the 3 pounds of tissue between my ears so that wealth-building behavior becomes automatic instead of exhausting? That's exactly what this 30-day framework does. We're breaking it into 4 weekly phases. Week 1 is mental foundations, clearing out the scarcity programming. Week 2 is decision architecture, training your brain to decide like an owner, not an employee. Week 3 is focus and deep work, because billionaires protect their attention like it's the only asset that matters, because, honestly, it is. Week 4 is vision and identity, installing the long-term thinking that turns short-term sacrifice into long-term dominance. By day 30, you won't just think differently, you'll notice yourself acting differently before you even realize the shift happened. Now, let's start with week 1. Day 1 to 2. Kill the scarcity script. Almost everyone carries an invisible script running in the background of their mind. Things like, money is hard to get, people like us don't get rich, or there's not enough to go around. You probably didn't choose this script. It was handed to you by your environment. Here's the drill for day 1 and 2. Every time you catch yourself thinking a scarcity thought, I can't afford that, that's too risky, people like me don't do that, you immediately follow it with a reframe. Not fake positivity, a rational rewrite. Instead of, I can't afford that, you train your brain to ask, how could I afford that? That single shift moves your brain out of a closed, defensive state and into a searching, resourceful state. Billionaires ask better questions. That's the entire secret hiding in plain sight. Write down every scarcity thought you catch for 48 hours. You'll be shocked how often your brain defaults to no before it even considers how. Day 3 to 4, the ownership mindset shift. Here's a pattern almost every self-made billionaire shares. They think like owners even before they own anything. An employee mindset asks, what am I required to do? An owner mindset asks, what needs to happen for this to succeed, regardless of whose job it technically is? For these 2 days, pick one area of your life, your job, your side project, even your household finances, and mentally take full ownership of the outcome, not just your assigned piece of it. Notice how this single reframe changes your problem solving instantly. You stop waiting for permission. You stop waiting for someone else to fix what's broken. This is uncomfortable at first. Your brain will resist it because ownership means responsibility, and responsibility feels heavier than passivity. But heaviness is exactly what builds mental strength. Day 5, the comfort audit. By day 5, you're going to do something most people actively avoid. You're going to list every place in your life where you've chosen comfort over growth. Not to shame yourself, to gather data. Billionaires are notoriously uncomfortable with comfort. They treat ease as a warning sign that they've stopped growing, not a reward to relax into. This doesn't mean suffering for the sake of suffering. It means noticing where you've quietly downgraded your ambitions to avoid risk, awkwardness, or effort. Day 6, failure reframe training. This is one of the most important days in the entire 30-day plan, so don't skip it. Most people's brains treat failure as a verdict on their identity. I failed quietly becomes I am a failure. Billionaires train themselves to separate the event from the identity. A failed venture is data. A rejected pitch is information. A financial mistake is tuition. Today's exercise, write down your 3 biggest past failures. Next to each one, write exactly what information it gave you, not what it says about your worth, but what it taught you strategically. This single practice, repeated over time, physically reduces the emotional charge your brain attaches to failure, which means you'll take more calculated risks without the paralyzing fear that keeps most people stuck. Day 7, foundation check-in. On day 7, you pause and review. Which scarcity thoughts came up the most? Where did the ownership mindset feel the hardest to apply? What comfort zones did the audit expose? This isn't busy work. Billionaires are relentless self-auditors. They review performance, theirs and their company's, on a schedule, not just when something goes wrong. That habit alone will put you ahead of 90% of people who never stop to examine their own patterns. Now, before we move into week 2, decision-making, I need to tell you something that changes everything you just learned. The reframes we just covered are only half the equation. The other half is speed, because a billionaire mindset without fast decision-making is just a nicer way of staying stuck. So stay with me, because week 2 is where this framework starts to feel completely different from anything you've tried before. Day 8 to 9, the 90-second rule. Most people take days, sometimes months, to make decisions that genuinely don't require that much deliberation. Billionaires train the opposite instinct. For low-risk, reversible decisions, what to order, which task to tackle first, whether to take a meeting, they give themselves roughly 90 seconds to decide and move on. Why does this matter for brain training? Because indecision is exhausting. Every unresolved decision sits in your working memory like an open browser tab, quietly draining mental energy all day. The fewer tabs open, the sharper your thinking becomes for decisions that actually matter. For these 2 days, practice the 90-second rule on anything reversible. Set a timer if you need to. Notice how much lighter your mind feels by the end of the day. Day 10 to 11, the regret minimization filter. One of the most famous mental models used by ultra-successful entrepreneurs is projecting yourself forward, imagining your future self at 80 years old, looking back on the decision in front of you right now. Would that future version of you regret not trying, or would they regret the discomfort of trying and possibly failing? This model works because it pulls your brain out of short-term emotional noise, fear, embarrassment, immediate discomfort, and forces it to weigh the decision against your entire life arc. Use this filter on any decision this week that feels emotionally loaded. You'll notice the right choice often becomes obvious the moment you zoom out that far. Day 12, calculated risk training. Here's something that surprises people. Billionaires generally aren't reckless gamblers. They're calculated risk takers, which is a completely different skill. Reckless risk ignores information. Calculated risk gathers just enough information to make an informed bet, then commits fully. This trains your brain to tolerate uncertainty instead of freezing in front of it. Day 13 to 15, the second-order thinking drill. Average thinking asks, what happens if I do this? Billionaire-level thinking asks, and then what happens after that and after that? This is called second-order thinking, and it's one of the sharpest tools for spotting opportunities and dangers other people miss entirely. Practice today by picking any decision, professional or personal, and mapping out 3 levels of consequences. First order, the immediate result. Second order, what that result triggers next. Third order, what that chain reaction eventually leads to. This single exercise, done consistently, trains your brain to think in systems instead of isolated moments. Day 14, decision journal. Close out week 2 by starting a decision journal, something famous investors and founders have used for decades. Write down the decision, what you expect to happen, and why. Then, weeks or months later, you review it against what actually happened. This does something powerful to your brain. It removes hindsight bias. Without a journal, your memory quietly edits itself to make you look smarter than you were. With a journal, you get honest, unfiltered feedback on your actual decision-making accuracy, which is the fastest way to genuinely improve it. If you've made it this far, you're already doing more brain training than most people will do in a year. But here's the thing. Decision-making means nothing if your attention is scattered across 50 tabs, 3 group chats, and a phone that buzzes every 4 minutes. Week 3 is about the resource billionaires guard more fiercely than their money, their focus. And what you're about to learn will probably make you a little uncomfortable because it means giving something up. Day 15 to 16, the attention audit. Before you can protect your focus, you need to see exactly where it's leaking. For 2 days, track every time you check your phone, switch tasks, or get pulled into something unrelated to your main priority. Don't judge it yet, just collect the data. Most people are shocked to discover they switch tasks every few minutes throughout the day. Every switch has a cost. Your brain needs time to fully re-engage with a task after an interruption, which means constant switching keeps you perpetually operating at partial capacity. Billionaires didn't build empires at partial capacity. They built them by protecting long, uninterrupted blocks of deep thinking. Day 17, the single priority rule. Here's a pattern interrupt exercise. Most people build to-do lists with 10, 15, 20 items, which quietly trains the brain to treat everything as equally urgent, which means nothing actually gets deep attention. Today, you choose exactly 1 priority for the entire day. Not 3, 1. Everything else becomes secondary. This feels almost impossibly restrictive at first, but it trains your brain to distinguish between what's genuinely important and what's just noise dressed up as productivity. Day 18 to 19, deep work blocks. For these 2 days, schedule 2 90-minute blocks of completely undistracted work, phone away, notifications off, single task only. This is where actual breakthrough thinking happens. Shallow, distracted work produces shallow, distracted results. Deep, focused work produces the kind of thinking that spots opportunities other people are too scattered to notice. If 90 minutes feels impossible right now, that's exactly the point. It reveals how untrained your focus currently is. Start where you can, even 45 minutes, and build the muscle. Attention span, like any muscle, strengthens with deliberate, progressive training. Day 20, the information diet. Billionaires are famously selective about what enters their mind, not because they're close-minded, but because they understand that consumed information becomes the raw material their brain uses to think. Feed it noise, and it produces noisy thinking. Feed it signal, and it produces sharper, more useful thinking. Today, do a hard audit of your information diet. What accounts, shows, and feeds are you consuming daily? How much of it is actually building your thinking versus just occupying your attention? You don't need to eliminate everything fun, but you do need to notice the ratio. Day 21, the boredom reset. This one surprises people every time. Deliberately spend 30 minutes today doing absolutely nothing. No phone, no music, no distraction. Just sit with your own thoughts. This feels unbearable for most people initially, which itself is revealing. Constant stimulation has trained your brain to avoid stillness, but stillness is exactly where your best strategic thinking happens. Almost every major insight successful founders describe having came not while scrolling or consuming, but in quiet, unstimulated moments, in the shower, on a walk, lying awake at night. You have to train your brain to tolerate boredom before it will hand you those insights. Okay, if you've stayed with me through all 3 weeks so far, you already understand more about how billionaire brains actually operate than most people ever will. But everything we've covered so far is still tactical. Week 4 is where we zoom out and install the piece that ties the entire 30 days together, the piece that determines whether these habits stick for life or quietly fade in a month. Don't leave yet, because this next part is genuinely the most important. Day 22 to 23, the identity shift. Here's something almost every high performer understands intuitively. Lasting change doesn't come from forcing new behaviors through sheer willpower. It comes from shifting identity first, so the new behavior becomes a natural expression of who you believe you are. Someone trying to save more money is fighting an uphill battle with willpower. Someone who identifies as a person who builds wealth deliberately doesn't need willpower for the same behavior. It flows naturally from identity. For these 2 days, write out the identity of the person who already has the habits you're trying to build. Not fantasy, specific, believable traits. Then, for every decision today, ask, what would that version of me do here? Day 24, the 10-year vision exercise. Most people plan in weeks. Billionaires plan in decades while acting in days. Today, write out where you want to be in 10 years. Not vague wishes, but a specific, vivid picture. What are you building? Who are you around? What does an average Tuesday look like? This exercise trains your brain to evaluate today's decisions against a much longer timeline, which naturally filters out short-term distractions that don't serve the bigger picture. Long-term thinking isn't a personality trait some people are born with. It's a mental muscle built through repeated exercises exactly like this one. Day 25, reverse engineering the vision. Now, take that 10-year vision and work backwards. What needs to be true in 5 years for the 10-year vision to be possible? What needs to be true in 1 year for the 5-year milestone to happen? What needs to be true this month? This is how billionaires turn massive, intimidating visions into actual, clear, next physical action. Without reverse engineering, big visions just sit in your head as inspiration. With it, they become an actual roadmap your brain can start executing against immediately. Day 26, the compound habit stack. Today, you identify the 2 or 3 habits from the past 25 days that had the biggest impact on how you think and feel. Maybe it was the deep work blocks. Maybe it was the decision journal. Maybe it was the daily reframes. Billionaires understand compounding better than almost anyone, not just in investing, but in habits. A small habit repeated daily for years produces results that look impossible from the outside, but are simply the math of consistency playing out. Pick your highest leverage habits and commit to stacking them permanently into your routine, not just for the remaining days of this challenge, but going forward. Day 27, the environment redesign. Willpower is unreliable. Environment is not. Today, redesign your physical and digital environment to make your new habits easier and your old habits harder. Move your phone out of reach during deep work blocks. Put your decision journal somewhere visible. Unfollow accounts that feed the scarcity mindset you spent week 1 dismantling. Billionaires obsessively engineer their environments, their calendars, their teams, their physical spaces, specifically so the right behavior becomes the path of least resistance. You can do the same thing at a personal level today. Day 28, the feedback loop. Look back honestly at all 28 days. What actually changed in how you think? Where did you resist the exercises the most, and what does that resistance tell you about where your growth edge really is? Billionaires treat feedback, even uncomfortable feedback, as the fastest path to improvement, not as a threat to their ego. Day 29, teach it. One of the fastest ways to cement any new mental pattern is to explain it to someone else. Today, teach one person, a friend, a family member, even just a written note to yourself, one specific thing you learned from this process. Teaching forces your brain to organize and clarify the pattern in a way passive learning never does. Day 30, the recommitment. On the final day, you don't graduate, you recommit. 30 days doesn't permanently rewire a brain trained for years in the opposite direction, but it absolutely builds the foundation and proves to yourself that change is possible on command, not by accident. Pick your top 3 habits from this month and set a plan to continue them for the next 90 days, because that's where they truly become permanent. Now, here's the part I promised you at the very beginning. The single exercise that ties every single week of this framework together. The one habit that shows up in some form across almost every ultra-successful person's routine, whether they call it this or not. It's simple to describe and genuinely difficult to sustain. Daily reflection paired with deliberate planning. Not journaling as venting, not planning as an overwhelming to-do list. A short, focused ritual, typically just 10 to 15 minutes, where you review what happened, extract the lesson, and decide the next move. This single habit touches every part of what we covered. It reinforces the identity shift from week 4. It sharpens the decision-making from week 2. It protects the focus you built in week 3. It catches scarcity thinking before it takes root, the way we trained in week 1. If you only take one thing from this entire video, take this. Block 10 minutes at the start or end of your day every day and ask 3 questions. What did I learn today? What decision am I avoiding? What's the one thing that actually moves my long-term vision forward tomorrow? That's it. That's the mechanism. It's not glamorous, it won't trend on social media, but it is, quietly, one of the most consistent threads running through the routines of people who've built extraordinary outcomes, because it forces the brain to operate with intention instead of drifting on autopilot, day after day, for years. Here's the truth nobody wants to hear. You don't need more motivation. Motivation fades within days. What you need is a trained brain that keeps making the right moves even when motivation disappears completely. That's what these 30 days are actually building, not a temporary spark, but a permanent operating upgrade. You don't need to be born into wealth to think like the people who built it. You need repetition, honest self-review, and the willingness to sit with discomfort long enough for your brain to adapt. That's genuinely available to anyone watching this right now, including you. So here's my challenge. Don't just watch this video and move on to the next one. Screenshot the 4 weekly phases, pick day 1, start tomorrow morning, and if you actually follow through, come back in 30 days and tell me what changed in the comments, because I guarantee you, something will. If this gave you value, hit subscribe, because next week I'm breaking down the exact morning routines used by some of the most disciplined founders on the planet, and trust me, it's not what the internet thinks it is. I'll see you in the next one. Stay dangerous, stay disciplined, and start training that brain today.